Connect with our loyal listeners at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Money to bud.
Super. Good. Inglewood. Purple rain falling down on the prince of the coast where the sun shine all year round. Purple haze over landscape, still I hydrate in the lunch line. With the smog and clouds, wood, start me out. This song's in the key of life, and love is in need of more. Young from Inglewood, barefoot on the cedar floor. If black music is the blood, then my heart has been beating more. Rapidly, happily, I look back on a Phoenix Shakur. Her son paved the way, now all eyes on me. Cause I'm young, black, and gifted, Nina, all eyes gonna see. If you swung back when faced with a
1580, we are now not just live on radio, we're also live on Instagram at DiPrima Radio. If you want to see me with the former Assembly Speaker, the former mayor of Los Angeles, now gubernatorial candidate Antonio Villaraigosa at the DNC. You've run this whole, you've chaired the convention. That's got to be a crazy job. What does that really mean? What do you have to pull together to do that?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things you have to do is try to keep the speakers on time. And the first day we didn't do that. So I mentioned to a couple of people that the best way to do that is put that music on. And the music gets louder and louder and louder the longer you go on, to the point where nobody's hearing you anymore.
You can't have the Apollo guy with the hook. Obviously you don't do that to the president, but we didn't finish until almost midnight on the day before yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. And that was unfortunate because I think the American people deserved an opportunity to hear from President Biden earlier than that. But yesterday was better. And there's a lot to say. There's no question about it. But trying to keep it within the time. And I know that my friend Mignon Moore, the chairwoman, got on it, and they had to make some changes and cut some people from the program, and they weren't happy about it. But you have to do what you have to do. And let me just say something about Mignon Moore. I've known her a very long time, since the Clinton years, and that's a woman, man. She's a firecracker, and she's been an advisor to Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and Joe Biden, and now Kamala Harris. And I tell you, she's somebody that to reckon with in this party. And we're so proud that she's our chairwoman.
Well, and it's a massive undertaking because the city of Chicago, it's a huge city. It's already busy. And then you have venues in different locations and folks coming in from all over the country. How do you think, you said you've seen the enthusiasm. There's been a lot of talk about, can we sustain that? And as a man who has won many a campaign, organized many a movement, how do you think we're set up? I feel like there was an urgency in what Michelle Obama said last night around do something. Don't wait for somebody to ask you. What do you think?
Well, first of all, let me just say something about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the most consequential, effective president that we've had since Lyndon Johnson. Who was Lyndon Johnson? The Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, the war on poverty. This was a man who made his mark. Yes, became an unpopular president over the Vietnam War, but without question was a man with respect to civil rights and voting rights. And this notion that we have to invest in people was certainly the most consequential president, at least in the second half of the 20th century. Joe Biden's going to go down as a very consequential president. When you look at taking us out of COVID the way he did, after the other guy was telling us to shoot bleach in our veins, or whatever he was saying, the nonsense that was coming from this man. And so, and not to mention the Inflation Reduction Act, the the IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, the CHIPS Act, the most far-reaching investment in infrastructure and putting people to work in good middle-class jobs since the federal highway system of Eisenhower. So this is without question a president who was trying to bring us together after 4 years of a man who didn't have the decency to be at at his inauguration, at Biden's inauguration, who made excuses for those people, the insurrectionists who try to change an election and maybe even kill members of Congress. When I look at why people are so excited, I think it was in part because there was a feeling that Joe Biden didn't have the wherewithal to beat Donald Trump. And when we say that this is the most consequential election, that democracy is on the ballot, that freedom is on the ballot, it's not hyperbolic. I think people really feel that we've never had someone like Donald Trump. It's not that he's conservative, but he's so right wing. He's fallen off the flat earth. Some of those people believe in, and there's a fear that when you talk about the deportation of 11 million people, the last time that happened in the 1940s. You know what country?
I'm guessing Germany.
Germany. So I'm not comparing. I'm just saying that's the last time anybody's ever done anything like that. The notion that we would even think that way, that we would nationalize what's happening in red states with respect to denying a woman's right to make decisions about her body and reproductive rights. When you look at voting rights and the way, look, we've always stood for the notion that in America, we got clean elections, or at least we should. And yes, there have been some times when that's been put in question, but this party is engaged in a systematic effort to deny poor people and communities of color the right to vote. And so when you look at everything that these people represent, the excitement comes that we feel we have a candidate now that can beat Donald Trump. Now, let me say something about Joe Biden again. I want to return to that because Joe Biden is a man who puts the country first. If you talk to him right now, Joe Biden really believes that he can beat Donald Trump. And why? It's a reasonable notion when you beat him before. And he's got support among, some of the white working class guys who are starting to bleed from the Democratic Party. And we need them. But he was convinced that the rest of his party didn't feel that way. And he put the country before his own personal ambition. And I'll tell you something, when he gave that speech, it was emotional for me because what a great man and a great president that he would do that. A lot of people say you put the country first, but don't do it, right? He really did that. So the reason why there's so much energy is because a large part of the party didn't feel like President Biden could do it. And now with Kamala Harris, a woman with a track record as a prosecutor, and when you hear prosecutor, some people don't like that title, or that job. But think about it. They also putting away sexual predators, putting away people that engage in sex trafficking,
drug cartels
that, are putting, fentanyl and the like in our communities. And so, she was someone, and she understood that. She used to always say, we both used to say, by the way, because I don't know if you remember, when she was running for district attorney, the closest election she's ever been in, She won LA County against a very popular district attorney.
Oh, for Attorney General, yeah.
For Attorney General. I'm sorry. And she won that by just a few votes. And we did 3 press conferences in the last 10 days. I was with her in that fight all the way to the end. She took on mortgage bankers during the mortgage lending crisis. She always said, we can't just talk tough about crime. We got to be smart. And so it's all of the above, kind of like, everybody likes to say that, 48% drop in violent crime, something I'm very proud of, by the way. And I think because you're familiar with Summer Night Lights and all the work we did around prevention and intervention. You know that we didn't have a homicide in Watts for 18 months since the 1950s. We went down 48% in violent crime, safer than any time since the 50s. And it wasn't just cops and, putting people in jail. We did some of that. But it was also constitutional community policing. It was also the notion, let's take the guns off the street, prevention and intervention programs, Summer Night Lights, which people don't understand was a gun violence reduction initiative. In some of the neighborhoods around those 32 parks, 72% drop in shootings. So,
I understand it because I also, I did Summer of Success, which led to Summer Night Lights. And here's the thing that people don't know that I know because I saw it with my own eyes. This man, when he was mayor, was there on the ground. You weren't just sitting in an office going, oh, let's see how we can reduce. This man would show up at the park in the hood and be shaking hands with kids in the middle of the night.
Every day for the 6 years, I think, that we had, or 7 years that we had Summer Night Lights, every single day, I'd go to at least one park. I'd stay there an hour or two. And can I say something to your audience? I grew up without a father, and every time I go there, the little kids, I don't know if you remember.
I do.
They'd come and hug me, and I always knew the ones that didn't have a father. I could always feel them, And there was this one little kid. He had like a buzz cut with, rows, but not cornrows, but like
lines. He was lined up.
Yeah, excuse me. I didn't know what the word was. So line, and every time he'd see me, he'd just hold on to my leg and my arm, and I wish I had kept up with him. I did. He went to one of my schools, one of the partnership schools. That was the other thing. We did summer youth jobs. We expanded them dramatically. We expanded after school programs. We did a whole panoply of things. So that's what's smart on crime.
And put the whole intervention movement on its feet. We didn't have intervention workers as official part of our city structure before your administration. And
every graduation of those young men, some of them were formerly incarcerated or justice, or the way we're supposed to say that. I love when people get all caught up on words. I'm caught up on redemption. I want to help folks like that because I know some of them have made mistakes, like we all have. Yours truly, as you all know, made his share of mistakes. But I'll tell you something. I believe in redemption, and I think she does too. So that's going to be the difference between a Kamala Harris and a Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to, say, lock them up. And I think you're going to see with a Kamala Harris, let's invest in them. Yes, you got to lock up some people.
Lock them up unless they're me, is what Donald Trump says. Yeah, lock them up, but I get immunity.
Yeah, everybody laughs, but it's true. We got a former prosecutor against a convicted felon. What a juicy story that one is. And who knows? He may go to jail. Notwithstanding, and obviously, if he wins the election, he'll pardon himself. But if he doesn't, and that's a travesty, because those pardons aren't supposed to be used for that. But obviously, this guy has violated every rule that I've seen most presidents respect.
Mayor Villaraigosa, I know that you've got a lineup of interviews and all kinds of things you're doing here, networking and I really appreciate your spending the time with me. But what do you want us to know? This race for governor, which is not in November, it's coming soon to the state of California. It's very crowded. Got a lot of big names jumping in, and what do you want us to know about your vision for California? What you want to do, and why you would be the person for this job?
I would just say that, first of all, let me say I'm not too busy to talk to a friend. Dominique, you and I have known each other for a very long time, some 25 years or so. Uh, you were a young pup in junior high, and I wasn't. But we've known each other a long time, and I have a lot of respect for your voice, for your view of the world, and it's always great to be on your show. And then KBLA, I'm a KBLA fan. I love Tavis Smiley. He received one of our acknowledgments for his contributions during Black History Month while I was mayor, and we've been friends for a long time. I used to be on his show when he was on PBS. I've been on his show here as well, and I think I'm going to be on the show later on. So KBLA, I want y'all to listen to KBLA. We want it to thrive. A Black-owned radio station is important in a world, especially in LA, and so, but everywhere. So it's great to be on. And then, you got DL Hughley and Jasmine Sanders. You got all kinds of good folks. Reva Martin. So let's listen to all of them. But on the governor's race, okay, let's talk about that. I tell people, as hard as I'm working against Donald Trump, and more importantly, for Kamala Harris, I'm gonna tell you, I think there's too much screaming in our body politic. I think you could be a progressive and a uniter at the same time. That's what Obama was. I think for his time, that's what Bill Clinton was. I think you could be pro worker and pro business. I think that you read every poll, and almost all of them are saying that we're going on the wrong track. We have an economy that's not working for enough people. And I think people are looking for problem solvers and proven problem solvers. And so, I've decided to throw my hat in the ring, because say what you say about me. I said earlier, I made my mistakes. But when you look at me when I was speaker, got 2 budgets on time when we didn't have a supermajority. I had to work with the Republicans. We had 2 budgets on time, the only 2 budgets, as I remember, in the 90s that were on time, with a surplus, investing money in education, and the author of Healthy Families, expanding healthcare. Millions of people, millions of kids received healthcare as a result of that. The toughest assault weapons ban. I did all the gun legislation, gay and lesbian civil rights, the anti-discrimination bill in housing and employment, the Carl Moyer Act, which is the biggest effort to clean up the air since the Clean Air Act. That was speaker. And then mayor. As mayor, I lost that first election, and we had a broad coalition of progressives and African Americans and Latinos and people that understood breaking glass ceilings is important. I always say, when the role of the first is not to bang on your chest and say how great I am, because we all got here on the shoulders of others. I always acknowledge I'm here because there was a Voting Rights Act. I'm here because there was a Civil Rights Act. I'm here because people fought and died for my right to be here. So my responsibility is to open up the door for others. And so I think, look at when I was mayor, 48% drop in violent crime. LA was one of the most violent big cities in America. And we weren't beating up on people all day long either to do it. Constitutional community policing. A 60% increase in the graduation rate. Number 1 American city reducing carbon emissions, and number 5 in the world, and built more infrastructure than anybody in the country. And so I think people are looking for proven problem solvers, for uniters. I'm going to be clear about this for your listeners. When I was mayor, 70% of my appointments and my staff were of color. Why? Because that's what the city is. Latinos are 40%, blacks about 8%, Asians about 14%. So, we look like LA. And I think we need a state government that looks like California. So you're going to see me open up that door. And by the way, more than 50% women, because let's be honest, guys, women are the bomb. They do it. And so we had everybody. And I think people are looking for a uniter who can bring us together and take on these challenges, the challenge of homelessness, the challenge of housing. And, I've been clear. I don't believe we should criminalize homelessness, but I also don't believe that you can have chaos. When people say it's okay to have encampments in front of schools, whose schools they're going to be in front of? They're going to be in Watts. They're going to be on the east side. They're going to be in all the poor communities.
Right. But of course, we got to have places for folks to go. You know that well.
We got to have housing for those people. We got to make investments in them. And the state has to partner with them in a serious way. So I'm looking forward to knocking on doors and talking to people. I think you'll find that there's a cross section of people that that are looking for somebody that isn't just a talker, but get things done.
Well, Antonio Villaraigosa, thanks for stopping by and talking with me this morning.
Man, I didn't know we were going to be on so long, and a lot of noise back there, but hi to all your listeners. Keep on listening. Dominique DiPrima.
All right, we're on Instagram and we're on the radio. We're live from the DNC on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward. Tavis is like George and Wheezy. He's moving on up. Last year, Tavis was number 45 on the Talkers magazine list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Wait for it. Wait for it. The 2024 list was recently released, and Tavis has jumped to number 33 on the list of the nation's most important talkers, making him the highest-ranked African-American on the coveted roster. Congratulations to Tavis Smiley from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got you black.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out.
Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out.
Oh, Downy in the rinse change.
Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes 100% of odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Roll Charmin ultra strong when you drop in the beat. It cleans with way less effort on your seat. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Yeah, roll it, yeah, drop it.
Okay.
Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt hella clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, it's all you need for that bathroom groove. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Okay, we got on a roll with Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa here. We are at the California delegation breakfast, and I'm being joined by a longtime political reporter. He's got quite a few more stripes, even than I, and I've been doing this for a minute. He's also part of the Young Turks. I know I don't even know where you look for those stripes, but it's kind of, I can sense it. Michael Schur, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, happy to be here. I mean, it's this isn't the kind of I've been to so many of these conventions, Dominique, that each one has its own feel, and this one going into it, as you know, was far different a month ago than it is now. And to see an energy in Chicago that we hadn't been able to, for a journalist, that's part of the story too. It's not just what people on stage are saying, what former presidents and surrogates and all of them are saying. It's what the feel of the convention is and what they're doing in an intangible way that matters. And I think this is an extraordinary few days so far for that.
Yeah, I mean, just because, the clock is all turned around because I'm kind of broadcasting on the fly in a lobby, we're going to go right into news, traffic, and sports here. But if you were to say, we've got like a minute here before news, traffic, and sports. What's your minute description of what that vibe is? I mean, having been to so many of these conventions.
I think confidence, right? I think when a convention has confidence, you have a good feeling. You don't know till November. I don't think conventions mean very much in point of fact. So, here we are and talking about something that doesn't mean very much to me. But I do think confidence is something that was missing a month ago that's here now. Whether or not it's false confidence, we'll know in November. But that energy, that creates the energy. And I think that's how I would describe this.
All right. Well, look, I think what you just said, they don't mean very much, is really interesting. And what I'm finding challenging is scraping below all of the veneer, the speeches, the talking points, the presentation, the gloss, to get down to what's really going on. I'm hoping you can help me with that, Michael Shore, when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Russia is filing a complaint with the U.S. over American reporters entering Russia alongside Ukrainian troops. Reporters from CNN and The Washington Post have been in Susa, a Russian town currently under Ukrainian occupation after a surprise attack into Russian territory. The City Club of Cleveland, Ohio has announced plans to host an event featuring Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. The African-American justice is touring in support of her upcoming memoir, Lovely One. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has left the Middle East without a Gaza ceasefire agreement or a deal for Hamas to release its hostages. Before leaving Qatar Tuesday, Blinken told reporters the deal needs to get done in the days ahead. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Let Express Employment Professionals help you hire for contract or full-time jobs. Forget about posting jobs, sifting through resumes, and interviews with unqualified applicants. Go to expresspros.com to find the location near you. That's expresspros.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Jason Hayward hit a 3-run pinch hit homer in the 8th inning Tuesday night to spark the Dodgers to a comfort behind win over Seattle. Hayward came off the bench to hit a grand slam at Colorado on June 19th. The Angels snapped a 3-game losing streak with a win at Kansas City. The Angels are tied with Oakland for last place in the AL West. The LA Sparks losing streak is now at 5 after Tuesday's loss at Connecticut. At 6-22, the Sparks are tied with the Washington Mystics for the worst record in the WNBA. Atlanta Falcons owner Arthur Blank is giving a $1.5 million grant to 4 HBCU schools to help them upgrade their football fields for games and practices. Clark Atlanta University, Albany State, Savannah State, and Miles College each will receive $1.5 million from Blank's foundation. The grants are part of the NFL's new HBCU field refurbishment program. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you say you care about the community, you have to also care about the climate. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Tips to help improve your credit score in 2024. Establishing credit is an important key to achieving financial health, but building a credit history from scratch can feel challenging since you need credit to build credit. First, what does it mean to build credit? All consumers have a score between 300 and 850. You want your score to be as high as possible as lenders look at your credit score to make loan and credit decisions. A good credit score shows you have a track record of borrowing money responsibly. Remember, it's never too late to build or rebuild your credit. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
Texting enrolls you into reoccurring firing automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again. At work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text LION to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text LION to 42424. That's LION to 42424.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
Michael Schur is a political reporter. He's here with me. He also actually has run for public office, and he is reporting on this convention. So how do you get below the veneer and get to what's really going on?
You know, so there's something curmudgeonly that happens to people if they've been doing this for a long enough time, where these are just, you know, everybody always says, oh, there's going to be a brokered convention. It's going to be a convention like none other. They're going to decide. There's going to be protests. There's going to be division. All this is going to happen. Nothing has really ever happened at a convention. Maybe since 56 years ago here in Chicago, where there were protests, there were protests on the floor. I think it's worth commemorating that this is 56 years as an African-American vice president may ascend to the White House. It's been 56 years since Julian Bond, who was only 28 at the time, was nominated for the vice presidency here as a civil rights leader in Chicago, and somebody nominated him on the floor. Of course, he couldn't have been there, but that was really the first time that people had talked about an African American on a national ticket in a way that brought it to a convention, and that was newsworthy. I don't think I think you look for the intangibles, Dominique, when you come to these things, and I think the intangible here is what I'm noticing that is going to change this election a little bit is not necessarily what candidates and presidents, and as beautiful as the oratory always is, it seems to me the Democrats are taking back the flag. They're saying USA, 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 which I think the notion that the flag belongs to the Republican Party is something that is no longer an effective notion for Democrats. So they're saying, hey, let's start saying USA. Let's start saying this is our flag. And you heard President Obama say it last night. Freedom is something that can belong to everybody, not just one party. I think that's a journey the Democrats need.
Thank you, Michael Schur. I don't know if you can stick around. I have Sydney Comlogger,
who I know very well.
Who you know very well. I know you ran against. Oh, there she is. Okay, she's on her way over right now. I know you got to get back to your booth inside the United Center, but if you stop back by, I'd love to talk with you some more. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks so much, Dominique.
This is I got to take some notes here. This is an amazing moment, and we're looking forward to talking with our Congresswoman Comlogger Dove. Is going the wrong direction though, and everybody is. It's really a lot of networking, a lot of conversation, and so it's difficult for me, one lone girl by the microphone. Thank goodness my representatives know me, and so they know where to find me. Congresswoman, would you mind taking a seat? I know everyone's trying to take a picture with her. Everybody's trying to lobby her. And good morning, Congresswoman.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm blessed. And, again, I want to thank you right off the bat before your staffers come and drag you away, for supporting KBLA, supporting me in this process, and making sure that Black press has a seat at the table.
Well, I mean, you've been a part of the LA community for so long, and it didn't make any sense to not have your voice here. Your readers are incredibly important, your listeners are incredibly important. Of course, many of them are in the district. So we have to make sure that you are always where we are.
I've said this to you before, but in the context of the DNC, it seems even more fitting, where we're kind of on this Black women lead theme this year. The future is female, says the members' T-shirt. But I feel like you came to Washington, to Congress, and you just expanded into the moment. You know how people rise to the occasion. You talk about, will you rise to the occasion? I as I talk to you on the radio, I just feel this growing confidence and leadership in a time when you're dealing with a bunch of crazy people in the House of Representatives.
Well, they definitely are crazy. But I think about my mother and my grandmother who instilled in me, and this is probably the same for you, this need to be resilient and to stay the course. And that you know that when you are doing good work, there are haters, there are detractors, there are folks who are deranged and don't want you to have success or your community to have success. And how do you keep your eyes on the prize? I mean, that is what our ancestors did when they fought to get us the right to vote, when they fought to make sure that we were broken from chains, when they fought to make sure that we can get into the housing that we deserve and the schools that we deserve. And so the forces look different, but the intention is the same. And we have to be as committed to this journey as our ancestors were.
What is it about Black women from California? I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of Mayor Karen Bass, of course, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, and it should go without saying, Vice President Kamala Harris. What is it about the California Black woman leadership that is just so unstoppable?
Maybe it's in the water. I don't know. But, I guess they not like us, in the words of California is about dreaming. It's about innovation. It's about becoming who you want to be once you find that out. And I just think that Black women, have embraced that. And so we come in and we're like, okay, this is who I am. This is who I want to be. This is who I'm fighting for. And I can do it in this town. And so but you also have to remember where you come from. And all of those women that you mentioned, I think we are all still rooted in our community.
Yeah, definitely rooted in the community, not afraid to walk through the district or hop out the car or,
and not afraid to walk alone, because so often, Karen Bass was out there talking about, combating liquor stores and attacking the crack epidemic long before that was popular. Maxine Waters was fighting against apartheid and trying to free Nelson Mandela before it was a thing. Kamala Harris was making strides in a space that wasn't really hospitable to Black women when she decided to become a prosecutor and be in the DA's office and the AG's office. And the U.S. Senate, we've still only had 2 Black women who've been elected to the U.S. Senate. So they're not afraid to walk alone.
Yeah, well, okay. And I'm glad you're not afraid to walk alone, but I really literally, I used to pray for Karen Bass when she was in Congress. And I do pray for you because it seems like it's so hard to get things done in this sort of era of chaotic Republicans. What do you think our chances are of taking back the House in November?
I have been optimistic ever since I got in, mostly because they're crazy. And when you hear folks like Chip Roy on the House floor saying, we have nothing to run on as Republicans, we have done nothing that we can take home to our districts, that gives me hope because it means that they know that they are a bunch of do nothings. They have passed no major pieces of legislation. They have no platforms that they have pushed forward. Everything they've done that they've been able to pass has going to dies or will die in the Senate because it's nonsense. And they know that. They are doing political talking points as legislation. And we have better candidates. We have candidates that look normal, that say normal things, that are connected to the needs of the people. And we tell the truth. We tell the truth about who they are, and we tell the truth about what's at stake. So I've always been optimistic. But we have to, as Michelle Obama said last night, don't get caught up in some bad poll and some funky misinformation that you're reading, in your own sort of discontent. If you've got some bad stuff going on in some other, part of your life, don't let it impact what we have to do on the political space and force you to stay out of working to help good people get elected into office. So we have a great chance.
I love what she said when she said, let's not get caught up in the Goldilocks thing. It has to be just right.
Perfect. Everybody has to be perfect. Like my curls are not going to be perfect every single day. Sometimes the eyeliner is going to be a little, wacky, right? On one eye. maybe I'm just not at my best when I'm talking about a piece of legislation, but you know what's in the heart, and you know my track record, and you know what I'm doing, and you know what you need, and you know that we've talked before. So I also love what you said about don't wait for someone in the campaign to call you specifically and say, hey, Dominique, I don't know who you are, but I'm specifically calling you to ask you to get involved in this campaign. Your life, your future is at stake. So you have been officially asked. We have deputized you to be surrogates for your future. And we have to remember that.
And what does this moment mean? I mean, to you, you're a young Black leader in this space. In watching the ascendance of Kamala Harris to the top of the ticket, all that we've been through in the past 6 months, even the past 3 months as a party, what does this moment feel like for you?
Shirley Chisholm has been with my spirit this entire convention. This Black woman who fought against the odds to run to be our president. And so we have Kamala Harris here, and I hope she is proud of this Democratic Party, that we have pushed past our fear to support an African-American woman. But I remember, I love looking at the photos of her when she was growing up as a little person, because I have pictures like that my mother took of me when I was little. I'm a biracial, woman, coming from a blended family, in a blended family now. And I see those pictures and I see myself, and I just believe that there are young boys and girls around this world who have that same background, who are now seeing themselves in what is possible for this country. It is not always nice to us, but it needs us, and we are better because of it, and we make this country better because of us.
It's my mom is white, my dad is Black. I say multi-ethnic, multicultural. I have my own terminology, but when Donald Trump started questioning the Blackness of Kamala Harris, vice president, I kind of took it personally, and I feel like a lot of us are. It's like, whether it's us or our kids, whether it's the California blend of Blaxican, or whether it's Asian and whatever, or Black and white, or that's not just California, that's nationwide. Do you think that's going to be a factor for voters? Because I think by now a lot of us got a few things, and some of us don't. A lot of people that just identify as Black, if they really did their DNA, they might find a few things in their family tree.
Well, they're blended families because this is a blended nation. I hope people take offense and say this guy doesn't deserve to be anywhere near the White House again. But I also hope people are talking about other issues as well, because we know that, national security seems to be an issue for a lot of people in the economy. So let's talk about those things too, while we celebrate our blendedness.
Yeah, it's a good point, but also worth noting, as two women with varied ethnic backgrounds, we identify as Black, we move as Black. It's never been a question of our Blackness. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think I turned Black when I knew that I needed ginger ale whenever my tummy was hurting, right? I turned Black when I realized that the curls wouldn't stop, curling up, even when I tried to put all my product on it. And I turned Black when I see how people treat my mother and the assumptions that they make of me, how they treat my husband, how they treat my son, and we all have to deal with it regardless of the hue, right? Or the color of our Blackness. So we have to celebrate it. I know you do. I do. I say I'm Black because I am. But that doesn't mean that it's a both and. You don't have to dismiss or erase the other part of your heritage. I think that's what makes us stronger. But at the end of the day, we are Black. We are proud. We are fighting for our people.
We didn't make up the one drop rule, first of all. Number two, the DNA. We didn't make up the dominant gene. So I don't know if that was God or, the scientists or whatever. We didn't make up the fact that if you have a Black person and anybody else, the baby going to be a Black baby. We didn't make that up, but that's what it is. And we are living it.
Right. We also didn't make up the fact that we weren't declared to be human, that people have tried to create laws generation after generation to keep us down, that we're still fighting against the vestiges of Jim Crow even now in 2024, that we have a Supreme Court justice who is Black, who has been Black for a very long time, who denies that and is denying us rights. So yes, We are dealing the cards that we were dealt. They are beautiful cards. They are cards of resistance and resilience. And they're also very powerful cards, which is why the Republican Party and the Supreme Court are trying to deny us, to suppress our vote, our access to capital marketplaces, our access to affordable housing, our access to education, our access to history. I mean, that's what the banning books is all about.
And I want to pivot back to what you said too, because we can get into, cultural wars and ethnic politics and all that. But the economy really is, for a lot of people, the bottom line. And for some reason, there is a group of Black folks, I'm not just Sexy Red, but others, who think that Donald Trump gave us a stimulus check, that if you look at the polling, people trust him more on the economy, maybe because, they think he's a billionaire. I'm not sure what, but when you heard Kamala Harris unveil her plans, some of her plans that we've seen so far, what inspired? There's people clowning out here. It's a party too, the DNC. What did you think, and what stood out to you as something that was needed now, or that might make a difference?
So first, the Biden-Harris administration has a CVS list of receipts when it comes to what they have done for the economy. And many of those policies have directly benefited Black people. $17 billion to HBCUs, $167 billion to forgive your student loan debt. So when you got that letter in the mail that said you don't have no student loan, that is because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Her economic plan is very pragmatic. It is bread and butter issues that impact us. People, it is hard for folks to, buy homes. So give them a subsidy, give them a tax credit. Childcare keeps America working, and it is incredibly expensive. So continue the tax credit and make it work for more people. The lowering the cost of insulin, lowering the cost of prescription drugs, lowering the cost of inhaler. That is what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did. She wants to make that kind of a medical cost accessibility, or cutting those costs available for everyone, not just seniors. I mean, but these are real issues that impact your pocketbook, your ability to buy a home and stay in it, what it costs for you to raise your child, and then what it costs for you to manage your medical bills. So I like the fact that she's looking at what real people, what everyday people have to deal with, and then price gouging. People are coming after her saying, well, what is that? Well, in California, when we have we have had floods, we have wildfires, we've had earthquakes. All of a sudden, the prices jump up. I mean, that is a real issue, and we need federal teeth and federal protections against those activities that we know happen, especially in a time of crisis.
I mean, to me, when you see gas prices going through the roof, and then all of a sudden the profits are way up, and the CEOs' salaries are way up. That means that they're charging you more, because how can their profits be going up, up, and up if it was necessary for them to raise the prices that much? That's not price fixing. That is accountability when people have monopolies and they use it to extort consumers.
Absolutely, because the product hasn't changed. You haven't gotten an enhanced product for the cost that you're now paying, which has gone up. We have tried to do that at the state level when I was in the legislature, in the Assembly and the Senate, but it was generally temporary, and it was only in response to a time of crisis or a natural disaster. But we know that this happens often, especially in rural communities and poorer communities, in communities where there's limited access to resources and amenities, and obviously after a natural disaster. So we have to make sure that companies, that big corporations, don't feel like this is something that they can continue to take advantage of, every single time, because the impact is on poor folks, poor white folks, and poor Black folks, and poor brown folks, and Asian folks, everybody. So this is a way to address poverty. It's a way to protect the working class, the middle class, and it's another way to put corporations, to hold them accountable, right? And we know that Donald Trump is interested in figuring out more ways to have, gold Bibles and gold sneakers, but he is certainly not interested in anybody other than himself. And we need to be telling that to our people. I mean, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had, and they say, well, I talked to these Black folks and they say they're going to vote for Trump. And I say, why? What did he do for you? Do you know what he thinks about Black people? I'll tell you. He said the Central Park Five deserved the death penalty. And those were Black men wrongly convicted. That is how he thinks of us.
And has yet to apologize. And Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager, I say that a vote for Trump, even if you're 50 Cent or Sexy Red or Lil Wayne, and you have a lot of money, your grandmother is living on Social Security, your great aunt, and maybe someday you. And most Black and Latino people depend on Social Security to survive so they don't end up homeless on the street. He has already said he's willing to cut it. It's in Project 2025. I say this, for Black people, this means you're voting to defund grandma. That's how I see it. But I mean, and I think there's so many more issues that we're not seeing when it comes to, it's not just, do you like Trump or do you like Kamala Harris? It's the policies, right?
Right. And it's the future. As you stated, there are many folks that are well off and they say, well, his policies aren't going to impact me, but they are going to impact your grandmother, your cousin, your cousin's cousins, those folks that you're not helping. And we all need some help from the federal government. So he wants to get rid of Medicaid and Medicare, both of them. That's for poor folks and folks who are sick. He wants to get rid of the USDA. I mean, that's to make sure that people don't put poisons in your food and then sell them to you without being held accountable. He wants to get rid of school lunches. I was on school lunch. The majority of the kids in LAUSD get their only meal from school. He wants to fire 4 million federal employees, most of whom are Black. All of us know somebody who works at the post office.
My granddad.
Who maybe works at an embassy or who works to make sure that you get your health care or who works for FEMA. And many of them, like I said, are Black and brown. They're the folks that are in our buildings cleaning them up. And he wants to replace them with political appointees. He's the one that wants to continue to push for a national abortion ban to make sure that Black women who have complicated pregnancies get criminalized when we go to the hospital to try to make decisions that are best for us and our family. He wants to get rid of the Federal Reserve and our currency. I mean, none of that makes any sense. And Black people, we need to know that. We need to know that he is not looking out for us and his policies are dangerous. And because I sit on foreign affairs, I can't tell you how many places I have visited or how many ambassadors I have talked to who are nervous about him. A Trump 2.0 cannot be. Folks are like, well, we're hoping for Biden or now Harris, because what he did to us, meaning Trump, was disastrous. He had a zero policy around Africa. So we were not able for 4 years to make any kind of relationships with any of those countries. Immigration, he told Republicans, do not pass this bipartisan immigration law because I need to be able to say that Biden isn't doing well. Well, many of the folks who are migrating are coming from poorer countries where they're being politically persecuted, or they're dealing with climate change that has really devastated their country. They have no place else to go. And, we do need to step up and deal with it. We also need to recognize that many of the folks are brown, but they're also coming from Africa. They're coming from China. And so we have to have a better understanding of a global humanity and the fact that when we are coming up with better policies, both from a development standpoint, from a humanitarian standpoint, from an immigration standpoint, that we're also helping our own national security. But he doesn't want any of that. And they know that. I can't tell you. I talked to African ambassadors and they look me in the eye and they say, is this really going to happen? And, the American people have to stand up and say no.
Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager-Dove, thank you so much for stopping by. Such a powerful conversation.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're sharing this experience with your listeners.
As am I. We are broadcasting from the DNC, Chicago, Illinois, KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
They say the hardest part of getting something done is getting started. Well, we did that 30 years ago when California first took on the tobacco industry. Now, smoking is down 60%, lung cancer 42%. A couple of our cities have already ended tobacco sales. A California without big tobacco isn't just possible, it's already happening. See our progress at undo.org.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at abacuspays.com, there are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at abacuspays.com.